This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Thursday, February 18th, ACABOR meeting. Shirley, would you be able to lead us in the pledge?
Everybody stand, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. We've got a small agenda for the evening. Ground rules are essentially the applicants will speak. Once the applicants have described their application, the board will ask any questions, clarifications as needed. And then there will be a public portion where if there's anybody from the public wishing to speak, they'll be welcome to. Just a quick roll call before we kick it off. Myself, Chris Dunnigan here. Kenyatta?
Here.
Sharon?
Here.
Shirley?
Here.
Joe?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
And Debbie?
Here.
All right. So let's start it off. Premier Brands sign plan. Take it away. Give us a little description of your project.
Okay, so this
first up, let me talk about GA. I am the engineering manager at Premier Brands. The reason why we're here tonight is because we're looking to add a sign for our company that we recently moved to the Orangeburg location. And we've put in the request to have a sign made for us by Foley Signs. I believe you all should have a packet of everything that was required of us to provide to give you an indication of what the sign entails. It's basically a aluminum sign with aluminum paneling that's going to have our name brand noted on it. And we're requesting permission for us to include that on our property.
Okay. Just a few quick questions. So you're looking at a yellow background with a red lettering, correct?
That is correct.
And the posts that the sign is going to be on are going to be black?
Pardon me?
The posts that the sign will be on are going to be black?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And then just one quick question. The bottom panel, there's the three panels. It says placeholder company name here. Will that be blank initially or will that have something on it?
I believe there'll be blank initially. The main sign would have our name and our corporate address, and the two bottom panels will be blank. Yes.
Okay. Those were the quick questions I had. Kenyatta, any questions or comments? You're mute, but I saw you shake your head no. So, Sharon. All right, Sharon, any comments, questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Shirley?
No, the first thing I did was Google the company, and that is the company colors. So no questions.
I have them on.
here, show your shirt.
Joe, any questions, comments?
No questions.
Brian?
No.
Debbie?
No questions, but I would like to comment on the presentation of your project. I thought this was so well put together. Thank you for all that effort that you put into this. It helped a lot.
Thank you.
Good job.
I will concur with that. We'll open up for public comment. Is there anybody from the public wishing to speak on this application? If so, please unmute yourself and comment freely. Hearing none, seeing none, public portion is closed. All right, we have a motion to approve as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
I'll second it.
We got a second from Kenyatta first. She beat you, Joe. We'll do a roll call vote. Myself, yes. Kenyatta,
Yes.
Sharon,
Yes.
Shirley,
Yes.
Joe. You're muted, but I think you said yes.
Yes.
All right, Brian
Yes.
and Debbie.
Yes.
All right, you guys are all set. Thank you, and I concur again. Thanks for the great presentation and the packaging. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate you taking the opportunity.
You're welcome. Have a great evening, guys.
Thank-
Have a great evening.
Thank you all very much. Take care.
All right. We've got one more other business item. I believe. Sean Keenan, are you going to walk us through the? We're asking for changes.
Fairly simple. Just asking house is up and done. Hopefully everybody likes the way it looks. Just asking to keep the shutters off. We liked the way it looked without the shutters once it was done.
All right. And just
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
it's just the shutters on the
Yeah, there was four. The whole front didn't even have shutters because there's some stone. 4 or 5 windows had shutters on them.
I'll open up to the board for any questions, comments. Anything?
Yeah, I was looking at somebody's got their, is it mute on? Can you hear disturbing here?
Is that better? Sean, I muted you. I apologize. So if you have to speak, just unmute yourself, please.
Looking at the photo that was sent to us, very busy front on this house, which I remember the plant and the elevation's pretty busy. This is kind of why, sometimes when you get just an elevation and you get a reference of colors, I mean, for me, I don't think parts of the front of this house look that good in terms of the colors. These black windows that are like black holes with these little white frames around them, it's something that you can't really pick up unless you see a color rendered elevation. So it's just a comment that I make in general to the way we approve this. And whether some of that is the photograph and the light the way it was, but I think that, there's a lot of nice aspects to the front elevation, and these black windows punched into these little white trims around it is not a very good look in my estimation. But anyway, it's just my comment. I don't know where you go with that, because, you require that everybody who's presenting a house present a colored elevation to really understand the relationship of colors. It might be beneficial. And in virtually every case that would come before us, I don't think there would be an issue. I think this was just a particular thing that's kind of awkward.
I have a question. I did not have a picture in my packet, so I took advantage of the sunny day yesterday and drove to the house. It's a nice excuse to get out. And I see why the shutters did not be there, and the gutters are now black coming down through the light gray, making lines. But I was very disappointed in the changes in architectural detail that I found when I got there. As Brian mentioned, the trim around the windows has gotten smaller. The beautiful keystone stonework over the window on the left and the arched window at the top are totally missing. There's no longer skylights on either side of the door. And Brian's right, very narrow trim. They had nice wide trim in the drawing on the top of the windows, which, by the way, were in the drawing 8 lights, and now there's 6 lights in actuality. And the columns all look very skinny. They don't look like they're really supporting the weight of the front of the house. And those were changes that were just made. And I don't think we were asked to review them. I mean, obviously,
May I comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep.
So the columns are 10 by 10 or 8 by 8, whatever was on the plan. The trim is what was on the plan. It's 4-inch AZAC, which is a true 3 3/4, 3.5 inch. So the trim is wide. I'm not sure where that comment comes from. The windows were black. The reviews on the house have been overwhelmingly strong. We had multiple offers on this house. The house was sold. Everybody loved the way the house looked.
well, that's good for you then. I just questioned so many changes.
I'm not sure what changes you're referring to, because as far as I know, it was built per plan, and it was always supposed to be black gutters, black leaders, black windows. The only change I made was I didn't put the shutters on. I'm not sure what keystones are you referring to? That threw me.
It was the arched window on the second floor and the window in stone on the left first floor. There's a lovely trim above each one of those in stone. And that's completely missing.
I don't know. That's news to me. Is it keystones in the stone or keystones in the window trim?
Yeah, the stones are supported by a keystone.
Okay, well, wait, let me stop you there. The stone is natural stone.
Right.
So this isn't an artificial stone where I'm buying a pre-made keystone. I have the stones as they come out of the ground to work with.
Well, I don't know it's fine. That's all I know.
The comment there, Sean, the drawing itself is above the top of each window. Oh, I'm sorry. The garage windows and the main window, that those are vertical border on the top of it with the keystone, right? Which in the photo is not there. You took the natural stone and just, coursed.
Right. So there was when we approved this, it was optional cultured stone or natural stone, and obviously natural stone, they don't make keystones.
Right.
So I thought I was doing a good thing using real materials instead of a manufactured stone. I have the plan in front of me. I see what you're talking.
At the moment, the only thing that we're really supposed to be commenting on is whether or not we're doing the shutters or not, correct? Because I feel like Mike's going off on a tangent on a completely different aspect. The issue that came before us was with regards to the shutters. And so with that, my comment would be, I think it's good without the shutters.
Thank you.
So in this case, I tend to say the ask is, I'm going to mute you, Sean. The ask here is a change from the presented plan, right? And the request is specifically around the shutters. However, I think the point here that Shirley's making is there's other things that deviate from the plan around the stone and some of the windows, the door. The steps, for example, are not to what's on the plan. And I think in the request to deviate from the presented plan, we should look at those other things that deviate, even though the only thing that was asked was about the deviation from the shutters. There are other deviations. So when we look at this, we're saying, okay, we are allowing deviation from the plan. We should make sure that we're saying all the other deviations are okay as well, right? That's how I would look at this. So when the building inspector goes back, they are looking at saying, okay, the board has allowed and said, yes, you can deviate in these areas, right? So that would be my looking at it. I
would agree.
The other deviation.
So with that said, and I guess with regards to approving things that are presented before us, this should not have been approved without seeing the finishes, correct?
Well, I think we did see the finishes at that time.
And these finishes, you're saying the colors, like dimension of the colors, are the colors different than what was presented originally?
I without going back and looking at that, I assume the colors are close in terms of what was there. Usually it's just the architectural pieces. So like, the door, the railings on the steps are narrower, or one's not there. The steps are narrower, the stones, the shutters and things like that. Does that make sense?
That does, but one of the comments was about it being busy. I mean, that should have been able to have been seen from the finishes before.
Right.
That was my comment, and my comment was it was busy. When I saw the house design in the front, I thought it was too busy, the front of it, and I still feel it's too busy, but that was the design, the way it was. My point was that as the finishes were described to us, and this is going to be this and this is going to be that, none of the finishes in and of themselves seem to be objectionable. Black windows can be very nice. White trim is very standard and classical on a house. The taupe of the trim. But when you put all those pieces together, this is what it looks like. And some of it, like these little spindly white frames with these black holes of windows, I don't think it's a good look. But you know what? I mean, I don't have to live in it. It's not my house, and it's an aesthetic judgment. It's not an absolute. No aesthetic judgment is an absolute. My point really was that we see houses that come before us, and they said, well, we're going to use this, this, and this, and this. And when it's fairly basic and the facade is fairly, repetitive and basic, it's all this siding, it's all this trim, that's one thing. When it starts getting a lot more going on it, you can't really visualize what the colors are going to look like when there's all these colors together. And to me, these black holes of these windows with three other colors on the siding is not a great look, and something that I might have said, maybe we should think about, maybe the trim needs to be wider. Something just it's not particularly a good look, and again, it's an aesthetic thing. And at that point, it would just have to be a suggestion. So that's all.
So if I may, because I'm looking at the plan now, I didn't think we were going to get into this so deep. I thought we were on a simple thing about shutters, but now that you've opened it up, I certainly want to address it. I put every optional material that we talked about on this house: the board and batten, the standing seam metal roof, which was an option, real stone. I put in an 8-foot high front door. I'm not sure what we're talking about with the front door. The columns are 10 by 10 as per plan. All the window trim around the windows is the same size that's on the windows on the plan. So I don't know what we're talking about, a black hole and small trim and all this other stuff that we're getting into. I'm starting to take offense to it. I don't want to get heated over this, but I'm not really liking what I'm hearing.
I think that from the board's perspective, look at the different things we see. Keep in mind, will any of the changes that we're asking to look at that are changed affect the value of other things, right? So keep that in mind. I think, Sean, the point is we're just kind of looking at it and saying it as a whole, right? Are there other changes that affect it? And it's just a discussion. I don't think anybody intends to insult you or anybody else at all. So any other comments from anybody else?
Sean?
Yes.
Debbie. Hi.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi, Sean. Whether I remember the house clearly or not, and from when it was originally presented to what is there as of now, because I've driven by the house, I just want to let you know, I think it looks great.
The reviews on the house have been rave reviews.
I know, Sean.
I have to tell you, I've had a bad day. I've been at the hospital with my mother all day. I'm sorry if I'm agitated, but to have somebody pick the house apart the way Brian did, it really bothers me. I put a lot of effort into these houses. I don't skimp on materials. And to talk about that I didn't have keystones over a window or the stairs are a foot shorter or something to that effect is just over the top. This is not right. It's onerous. I have a right to build my property, and I think I did a good job on it. If you don't want to approve it, so be it.
Sean, I didn't mean to
One of my coworkers is actually a neighbor, and she said it looks absolutely beautiful. So.
All right.
I didn't mean to rile you up, Sean. I just wanted to say that I support what you've presented.
No, you didn't, Debbie. I'm not.
Oh, no, I know.
But when I
I'm
hear
sorry.
and the design features of the house are being picked apart after I spend 8 months building it, I'm sorry. You know what? I take offense to it. Everybody else loves the house. That's why there's vanilla and chocolate. People have different opinions. Somebody shouldn't be able to sit on a board and tell other people how their houses look. It's enough.
So, do we have a motion to approve the presented changes?
I approve.
I'll make that motion.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
We've got a first from Debbie, second from Kenyatta. We'll do a quick vote. Myself, yes. Kenyatta?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Shirley?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
All right. Sean, thank you. We're all
Thank
set.
you. I'm sorry. I don't mean to get heated with you. I'm at my wit's end today, and this is not really what I expected tonight. I thought this was a simple thing for some shutters.
No worries.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right. That is our last item for the night. I'll ask Liz. I assume you are still on remote meetings for the state for a while, and as long as that is going to be there, I assume we're going to stay this way. Just want to get that clarification from you.
Yes, we're still able to do remote if you want.
Okay. All right. Anybody have anything else before we close out?
Chris?
Yeah.
Just in a suggestion moving forward, the first case that was brought up to us tonight was so well put together that we rarely see stuff like that, right? But when we do, it's so helpful to the board, especially now when we can't see things live. Like I said to him, it was very, very helpful. Under the circumstances, extremely helpful, right? But then we have the second case where, and so whether it's an opinion about what you like or don't like, or what you thought you saw versus what you see, I often wonder when these things are brought before us, because some people just don't put any effort. And we know this. They don't bring colors. They don't bring samples. They don't have good drawings. Sometimes we have to send people back. If maybe the board just tightened up what our expectations are for these presentations, I think it's helpful to them and it's helpful to us. And then this way we don't get into these, for lack of better words, I'm not like, just conflicts or, little rough spots.
So the question here, and they had it mentally noted, is to understand, I think Brian's point and your point is essentially, and I think we've all said it in the past, a color elevation does wonders, right?
Mm-hmm.
It provides a depth, it provides a whole lot more detail. I think we should look to see if that can be something we put on, I don't know if all applications, but a lot of them, particularly around commercial buildings and
why not all?
What?
Why not all? Why not make it mandatory for all?
Yes, why some?
I'm not saying that we don't do it all, right? I don't know what the extra cost to the applicant would be to get, hey, if they're making a minor change somewhere to go print out 10 copies or however many copies are required in color, that would be the only reason, right?
But if it's a revisit, that means we've already had the original, correct?
Right. And I think if you're doing brand new construction of a house or a commercial building, then it's part of the deal. It's kind of that do you look at it and say, okay, if it's a minor change or they're here for something because the building inspector sent them because they're doing a project on the side of their house or something, do we require it there? Well, I think we'd have to see what the options are and really understand a little bit better what the cost difference is.
Right, but then they wouldn't have to necessarily submit the originals. I mean, like we just got this email, which I don't think did the house justice, but if it's a revisit, there's a document or something that's already been rendered that could just be emailed to us. So it wouldn't be an additional expense. But I think moving forward that anybody presenting plans to us, especially in this climate, it should be color. We should see it.
So, and you bring up a good point around maybe they don't have to print it, given the way we are working right now. A simple PDF version of the plans in color would probably be significantly cheaper and easier for all of us.
Just like one elevation, just the front elevation in color, especially on a design like this design, which has a lot going on. It's a very busy facade, and it just helps to understand how the colors interplay, et cetera. And I don't know how much impact one could have if one said, maybe I think it would be better if, the trim was wider, go to a 1x6, not a 1x4. It would just, to a degree, we can only make suggestions to see if they would think about doing that, think it would look better. I mean, obviously this is my profession and I do this all the time. So it's those kinds of things that make a difference in a look, and yet it's also subjective,
But wasn't the point here tonight whether or not it was different from the original and not so much what it looked like now? So that's what I was trying to say. So my next question then is, and to Kenyatta's point, which was, where is the original document? And if we have stuff like that, we should be on a night like this, that should be presented to us again. So we have something to, what did it look like with the shutters? What did it look like without the shutters? And this way we have something to play off of, because honestly, I don't remember. I had to go really to see the house. I don't remember. I may not have even been to that meeting. I don't know, but I don't miss many. What it was supposed to be. So to Brian and to Shirley, if you happen to have that recall, well, more power to you. I don't. But I was just looking for a way for us to avoid this in the future. That's all.
Same.
Makes sense. Something I'll follow up with Cheryl about that and see if we can change the application process.
Yeah, you know what, Shirley, I have that, but again, is that my question is that the original that we approved? Yeah. Okay. Well, I can't tell what the size of the moldings around the windows are on that, love. So, and I can't tell if those are black windows or not on that rendering either. So how you two knew that based on that picture, I don't know. Like I said, more power to you. It's not in my wheelhouse. I wouldn't have known.
Well, you can see that the windows are black, right? In the photo, it's like they're a whole.
Yeah, but I think at this point, right, the house is pretty much built except for the shutters. So it means that it's gotten past that point already. So if it's gotten past that point, that means that we've seen the colors. And if we haven't, that's where the issue is. We should not be approving things if we can't see the colors. Like you would have already seen that. So now it's like for the builder or anybody else, it's like, I've already done all of this. I'm only asking you to change one thing. But now you're telling them to change you're disproving of the house that you've already approved of.
Well, my
How
point
can you guys
different.
tell off of this drawing that those aren't black windows? Or the size of the moldings? How could you tell?
You can't. That's my whole point. That is my whole point.
Yeah.
We look at monochrome drawings that have no colors in them, and we try to, that shutter is there, and that's now. If you have all clapboard in taupe and you have white trim, and you can see the two samples together, you know what it's going to look like. And when you get something that's more unusual, it's hard to picture exactly what it's going to look like.
Right. So as when Shirley just held this up, I asked this question again. I wouldn't know when this drawing was brought to us 4 months ago that was a black window or a white window or a green window. This is a black and white rendering.
They told us it was black.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a question that came up that day.
It.
And the thing that, and like when I first looked at that, I looked at those windows. I said, "Oh, they don't have the window details." And then I looked closer. I said, "No, it's there. It's just black." And I think both of you guys are seeing the same thing. Without a color visual of that,
Right.
it's hard to see that. Oh, those being black, you're not going to see them. You're going to lose that detail that looks so clear on a plan, right?
But I also think that you lose a lot in that particular rendering that was submitted to us. I think that you see more of it when you're in front of it. So
The
that
photograph,
didn't
I
do
said
it
that.
justice.
I said that. Could be the photograph. The photograph could be reading that way because right up on Green Street, right, there's that white and black house that was put up right near our house. It's all white with black windows, this kind of architecture, this style, black windows.
It's on trend. It's
and
on trend.
black metal roofs, and it looks incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But what it doesn't have is gray trim, gray siding with bright white trim and then black windows. That's the thing on the right, lower right to me that just is kind of, that's where I have a little difficulty in the look of the house. But you know what? That's me. If people love the house and if the people who buy it love it, more power to them. I'm not suggesting that we reject it or anything. I was never suggesting that. I was making a point that we approve all these things and we never really know exactly what they look like. And doing renderings to make a close approximation of what the house is going to look like and show things like dark windows with gray and white and what that'll look like is very easy to do in the profession today. It's not a difficult thing. The tools are there.
So it sounds like something to change in our application process given where technology is going. So I think that's fair.
Yeah. So, and I agree. And I think that should also apply to the landscape plans as well. I feel like there's a big disparity in terms of what is given to us to evaluate.
Yeah, agreed. Like our friends by CVS, those drawings that they did in color made a huge difference to make that. Really,
yeah, that
Right, Chris. And
gets a little trickier. That's a little more. That's a rendering. That's a little harder to do. I mean, there are programs that do that as well, but you can do a colored elevation in a lot of different methods, simple methods, without 3D rendering programs even. But you know, for people who are approaching, and we've seen some commercial little projects, commercial that came in and the architect threw some color on it that gave it the feeling of what it was on small things. You know, it can be done simply.
But you know what, Brian, back to the CVS project, we sent those people back 4 times. And to the dismay of much of the board members, because I was adamantly unhappy with the first thing that came before us. You know, I thought it was just a skimpy kind of landscaping project, and there wasn't much thought behind that at all. And as we pushed the envelope asking them, but the way we did it, they were willing to come back and how do you say, do more, okay, enhance it, and it worked out. But it was all before this thing was built or started, and that's the difference. I think this guy had already, yeah, that's all it was, Brian. It was just, you know. I think, and he said he had a bad day, right? But you know, they hadn't started anything and invested in anything, and here he is. He's got like hundreds of thousands of dollars vested, and we kind of pulled the carpet out from him. He was a little taken aback. But I think these things and these questions, and that's my point, need to be brought up. If we're not sure about something, stop putting a rubber stamp on things. If we need more information, send them back and make them come back with it, because. Right. We shouldn't let things go until we're satisfied. I know we talked about that at our last meeting, which was, you know, do we say yes to things just because everybody else is, or do we? No, I think you just keep going until you get to a level of satisfaction, each one of us. And I don't regret it. And here we had a situation tonight. It was just different. It wasn't intended. I know that.
All right.
It was the keystones. That was it. The keystones were the key.
I am wondering.
That was the clicker, huh?
Yeah. So I am wondering, we approved the house recently at Sean's building on Tweed and
Right.
is that Mountain Road. And I just remember being very impressed with the design, but I'm pretty sure that we did receive a color rendering for the home. I know we had a color rendering of the landscape plan. Anyway.
Some people definitely bring them, and I think I'd say probably the majority don't, but you do get it occasionally, especially on some higher end stuff. All right, so I'll talk to Shara about that and see if we can get a change there and get much flexibility we have to get a little bit more detail. So, all right, anything else? Otherwise, we'll close. All right.
Have a good night, all.
Wait.
Hey, Brian, why don't you make the motion to close tonight, Brian? I'll let you do it. I'm usually the one on my end of
You don't want to always veto the closing. No, I think we should just stick around. All right, I make the motion to close. We've done enough damage.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, before we go,
No, we're closed.
the town board is reviewing the sign code. The town board is reviewing the sign code. Please go take a look at it. It was in the backup from the last week's town board meeting. So, just a heads up there.